Let's talk about the three different mindsets that we just want you to be careful around. I've personally gone through all three of these categories, and so I'll share a little bit about that as well. The first is the perfectionist, and there's a lot of perfectionism in kind of the early stage of entrepreneurship, especially if it's your first time. And that's because you really understand the problem, you've investigated, you put a lot of effort into it, and you just want to make it just right so that people understand every little thing that you've thought of, and you just want it to be perfect. Um, the second is the finisher. And the finisher is somebody that just won't talk about their idea or are very vague about it just because they want to make sure that the whole thing is complete, and they want to do like a ta-da, or they're in stealth mode. The reality is I've seen a lot of folks kind of start out in stealth mode and want to do this big product release, and what happens is it just takes a long time for adoption to happen, just like we talked about in the prior session. So it's really important just to be careful about how much of a finisher you are. And then lastly is the cheerleader. And the cheerleader is somebody that gets so excited. And we all know who those people are, where we're so excited about the idea. You just think that the minute you start introducing the idea, or you turn on your website, everybody's going to be coming in, you're going to be overloaded, and you realize that that just didn't happen. It usually just doesn't happen that way. I personally have gone through all of these. The first time I started one company, my first company, I was a perfectionist, where I just wanted to make sure that I got every little detail right and thought about every little process and every feature and the whole experience, just to realize that it wasn't perfect in the first place. I've also gone through the finisher mode, where after my first company, I had an idea for another company, and I just didn't want to tell everybody about it because I was a little bit worried that if I didn't have all of the things figured out, someone would just come and not steal it, but take a lot of the ideas that I had. And I was more worried about some of the bigger companies that had more resources than I did to do that. And so I would worry about that. And I also realized that, one, big companies are busy doing their own stuff. Two, they kind of want to see if there's a market for something before they start investing in things, because they have their own businesses to run. And for other entrepreneurs that you share it with, most of the time they're thinking about their own stuff. And it's hard for them to even try to catch up or do what you're thinking about, just because of the time you've invested in it. And then, right now I think I'm in the more of the cheerleader, where I personally get so excited about an idea that I just believe that everybody should just do it, or follow the idea, agree with the ideas that I have around a particular solution, and get super excited. And that also takes a lot of time to convince people to get as excited as you. And that's what we talked about in creating that buzz. So let's take a deeper dive into each of these types. The perfectionist. So the perfectionist, as we talked about, is somebody that just needs everything to work and just be just right in the perfect conditions before sharing. And oftentimes the success is the destination, not the journey, right? The journey is ongoing, and the destination, you're looking for a finished state that you may not make any changes to the versions in the future, right? Like, that's how you're thinking about it. And it's easy to fall into that trap sometimes. Um, but the biggest risk you have is the risk of rejecting iteration, especially the way things are evolving and changing so quickly in not only the needs of customers from a services standpoint, or from a technology standpoint of the advancements of AI that happen faster than the speed of your development. So unfortunately, if you're not iterative, it kind of rejects the idea, the mindset an entrepreneur needs. So this is definitely something to be cautious of. Now, the finisher has some similarities in terms of behavior to a perfectionist. But I think one nuanced piece of a finisher is that there you do have a kind of clear end state in mind, like what it all looks like. And it's not just the product or solution, it could be the whole experience from making sure all your accounting is set up and the website and the processing and all of the other things that go around your whole business. It's the idea that everything needs to be set up in order for you to kind of launch your business. And the reality is that some of the things you set up and whatnot, they're all going to be necessary at some point, but they're not going to be needed if you don't get sales in the beginning. And so the most important thing is to figure out how to drive sales, traffic, adoption of your product so that all of those other things to get everything just right in terms of your business and your product is ready to receive all of the influx and flow coming in. But if you don't get that, then you're going to end up spending a lot of time just building those things and no one will come. And so just a big risk that you're taking in terms of time investment as an entrepreneur on something that you may not have to spend time on right now. And so the art of being an entrepreneur is figuring out what you really need to spend time on when. And that just takes a lot of skill and support. Now, the cheerleader. It's inevitable as an entrepreneur, founder, starting your own business that you're going to be super excited and you're just waiting to get your product out there and you have all these great ideas and you're just excited to get it implemented. And the reason we talk to you about building buzz is because of that excitement that you have. You got to get other people excited about this as early as possible because it just takes a long time for people to change behaviors and adopt things. Think about my gradebook example from earlier. How much pain and how much enthusiasm do you think a teacher will need to feel in order for them to change their grading system, stop what they've been doing, use your product, get trained on it, convince other teachers in this school and the school student information system to change to your gradebook? Like there's a lot of steps that they have to go through in order to make that kind of change happen. And so you have to realize that even if you are super excited, you have to build that momentum across your customer base or your customer opportunities.